Good morning, everyone. This is Sue. I'm back from vacation and lucky to be with you here today to do this live event on optimism. For those of you that know me, you can imagine that I'm very excited and optimistic about today's live event. I'm one of those rose-colored glasses kind of gal, and those that know me know that to be true. So what does optimism have to do with leadership? That really is the topic of today. And if you're joining me today, put a comment in the comments there so I can know who's here. My eyes don't do very well with the small print there, so my glasses, I gotta look. I see Cindy Chicker is here and Lena is here from Arizona. Wonderful. So I'm glad you can be here today. So on optimism, I want to open with a pretty bold statement. A belief that I hold dearly is that when a department, a division, an organization, a family, whatever, when they want to transform into something better than they are, it takes optimism. That it would be very, very hard to transform from something maybe that's average or just good to something that's great without an element of optimism as part of that effort. So I'm going to dive into that in today's session. I want to start with the definition of optimism. Being a lifetime optimist, I never really looked up the definition before, so I did that in preparation for today. And it reads like you would expect it to read, the definition of optimism: hopefulness and confidence about the future or the successful outcome of something. Come on, that's beautiful. Hopefulness and confidence about the future or the successful outcome of something, okay? So optimism is really, by definition, a form of positivity. And you know that Jane and I speak about this all the time when we're working with our partners, when we're coaching leaders, we talk, and when we're with employee groups, etc. We talk a lot about positivity and the 3-to-1 ratio and how you need 3 times more positivity to every one thing that's not to have a culture that really flourishes to get great results, right? So optimism is a form of positivity. It's I believe in you. I believe in us. I believe we can do it. That's, positivity, and definitely a form of positivity is optimism. Where the reverse of that is pessimism, and so pessimism is a form of negativity. So, those mindsets or those beliefs that it won't work, it'll never fly, things will never change, it can't because, we can't because, that is negativity and pessimism. So, one time I remember a nurse that I was working with that was really struggling with her attitude at work, her behavior at work, her performance at work. And when I was talking to her about that, and I was kind of painting this glowy picture of how it could be, how the behaviors could be good, how the performance could be good, she just corrected me and said, "You have to know that I'm a realist." And I'm thinking, that has stayed with me. That was years ago, but that has stayed with me that, that's just another form of negativity and pessimism in my view, is, this view that I'll label myself a realist because pessimism sounds too negative and somehow that sounds better. But anyway, it's about this apathy or settling and, belief that maybe things can never change, or no view for something that is, by definition, optimism, hopefulness, or confidence that the future can be successful. So optimism is really, in my view, a really, really important aspect of transformation, individual leadership, and even how we, behave as human beings in life outside of work. There are some misperceptions out there about positive leadership. And I faced some of these, misperceptions about my own leadership, being a very optimistic and positive leader and carrying my beliefs in that way, is that sometimes there have been some misperceptions about my abilities as a leader because I am so optimistic. And one of those misbeliefs is that just because you wear rose-colored glasses, there's a belief that that you overlook problems, that you can't see problems because you're just, wearing these rose-colored glasses. And I would say that's not true at all. I mean, I have no trouble, spotting problems and assessing for problems, but I just do wear rose-colored glasses, meaning that I deal with problems in a different way. Doesn't mean I overlook them. I deal with them and believe that they can be overcome in a different way because of optimism. Another misbelief or misperception about optimistic leaders or people is that they avoid confrontation. And again, I would say that, those of you that know me and know my leadership and know that I'm the one that teaches, the 5-point correction conversation, which is, a very difficult conversation. And I've had countless numbers of them with leaders, physicians, employees, and the like, is that, I don't avoid confrontation. Yes, do I have a velvet hammer approach to some things in those conversations? Yes, but can I have those difficult conversations? Absolutely. And can I do them in an effective way? Absolutely. So some of the, kind of maybe guidance or mentorship that, especially as you move up the ranks in leadership, is there's this perception that you have to become more hard. And I don't want to say negative or pessimistic, but maybe in a way, yes, because there's this misperception that, if you are optimistic, you're somehow soft or maybe not as effective in things like problem identification and solving and having difficult, meaningful conversations that maybe correct, behavior, performance, etc. So, really optimism, if you go out there and you do some research about emotional intelligence, and there's such, a huge body of evidence out there right now about emotional intelligence and its real importance. It's no longer considered the soft skills of leadership, that, these are really critical, maybe the most critical aspects of things that we need to develop as leaders is our emotional intelligence, and optimism is certainly an element of that. And really, it's about a belief, right? I mean, optimism is a belief. And if you're currently somebody who would describe yourself as a realist or a pessimist, or, definitely have never labeled yourself as an optimist, that really is, connected to beliefs. And changing beliefs, people say, well, you can't change it. You either are or you aren't. It's hardwired into you. But, really, believe it or not, beliefs can be changed, just like behavior can be changed. Is it hard? Yes. Can it be done? Yes, right? So if you're one of those people, I mentioned that nurse that, kind of labeled herself as a pessimist or a realist. I also, in working with a CEO last year, and I was in a session with him, and, he admitted to me almost proudly in a way that, but Sue, I'm a pessimist. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work, right? Like, I'm glad to help you, strategize around being a great organization, but your pessimism might be a barrier to that actually being achieved. And I believe that to be true. And so really, people are, if you just think about it, and reflect on it for a second, I think you would realize that people are attracted to optimism, right? I think it's an attractor. So when you think about leadership, it is about attracting, followers or people to come along towards this future state, and that they trust you to follow you there, right? And so people are attracted, I believe, to optimism. Think about, just even children's stories, The Little Engine That Could, that is about optimism. Or the Cinderella story, it's about, something, being good, an outcome when even things look bleak, that there is hope, that there is belief that things can be better. And even, like I'm a person, maybe again, it's my optimism. I root for the underdog for, especially if I'm watching a sporting event where I don't have like a huge love or alliance to one of the teams, I always will pick the underdog. And the reason for that is just this optimism and this excitement that people can overcome, whatever their current state is and situation. and achieve greatness. And that takes optimism. And it's exciting when somebody actually gets there. I even think of the 1980 Olympics and the story about Miracle on Ice. Many of you know I'm a huge hockey fan. So, that story of Miracle on Ice really is about optimism and hope for something that seems impossible, which is beating the 4-time defending gold medalists, the Soviet Union, in a hockey game. And I mean, I can still tear up when I watch that for the 10th time because it's just so exciting to watch somebody achieve something that seemed like it was out of reach. And I think that's what optimism gives us, is this ability to reach something that maybe, it alone without optimism would almost seem impossible. So optimism really plays out in many facets of life, not just work. I mentioned sporting events. The reason that people will endure grueling practices and workouts and tough feedback from their coach and their teammates is because, they have this winning outcome as this, vision of what's on the other side of this, right? So that optimism or that hope gets them through the grueling practices and, maybe this tough feedback that they need along the way. And same thing with, even in medical treatment, we've had family members, go through cancer treatment. And when you think about the grueling aspect of chemotherapy and radiation and the like, when you think about that, why would you do that, right? Because you're optimistic and hopeful and you can see what's on the other side of that. And I can't even imagine going through those things without that optimism and hope of what's on the other side of that. So draw this to the parallel of our leadership, right? And transforming an organization, achieving great results, not just mediocre or average or settling for anything less than that, but that we're willing to endure things that maybe are uncomfortable, overcome challenges that seem unsurmountable because there's this thing on the other side and you're optimistic and hopeful and you believe it really can happen. And so that helps you endure and get through it. So again, I can't even imagine, an entire organization transformation without a collective sense of optimism towards what that future is. So that really gets into tactic number 1, which is, how do you, especially if maybe you haven't thought about this as a leadership superpower, how do you, bump that up a notch? And so tactic number 1 would be really to give a lot of thought and pause to what it is that's on the other side of all of this work we do in healthcare, whatever role you're in, what is on the other side of that? Why are you even doing it? What are you trying to create? So whatever that outcome is, whatever that vision is for greatness in the future or certain, things, you have to know what that is. And not only do you have to know what that is, you have to sell it. You have to say it. You have to all the time. So, if we're too focused on the barriers, the steps to getting there, and we talk and talk and talk about those things, but we don't talk about at an equal level or more that it's connected to this vision, this goal, this hope for the future, then all of that just gets, really dissatisfying to just work harder and do things in new ways when you don't see that it's connected to the future. So really important leadership tactic is to really create that vision for the future. What is it? Paint that picture, get people excited about it, and do it all the time. Don't just do it once a year at the start of the year when you set goals or, whatever. It has to be alive. It has to be talked about often. Start every meeting with, what we're meeting about here today, we're going to work on this, but what is that connected to? It's connected to this hope and this vision for the future of something that's better. So that has to be loud and it has to be often. If you're only talking about the work to get there, and that, then, it's going to come across as not as positive, not as optimistic. You have to connect that to the hope for the future, the great outcome, and you need to paint that. So loud and often, paint that picture, tell the story of where we're going, not just the steps or actions to get there. And another tactic really related to that is set big goals. Not little tiny soft goals, set big goals. And I know some people the realists, will say that, let's set really soft, easy goals so people can get a sense of accomplishment. Isn't that better for them, right? The research actually tells us out there, and this goes way back, this isn't something we invented or made up, is that, and we believe it to be true because we've seen it to be true, is that when you set a big goal that's on the very high end of difficulty, yes, it'll take an all-in effort and it'll be hard and it'll be difficult. We'll have to work hard. We'll have to be all in. But if we do that, it is possible. When you set a goal like that, then you can bring people along with you. And actually the research says there'll be a higher level of performance because that goal is so big. When you set a soft goal, people will, have that mindset that we don't have to all be in. We all don't have to work hard. It'll be easy to accomplish even if a few people or just the leader carries the weight on it. Well, that is not going to get you to wildly successful, right? That is not going to lead you to transformation. And so, I think it's really a form of pessimism to set soft goals and make it too easy. And I don't buy into that, logic of people, we just want to make it easy so they can sense some wins. You can do that with some little bite-sized action pieces along the way and celebrate those things along the way. But the big goal, that outcome, needs to be exciting. It needs to be, an all-in, and people need to understand that sense of urgency and that sense of contribution to get there. And then they can feel the pride when you actually get there. So aim high and miss versus shoot low and hit. I think that's an excellent example of leadership optimism. Now, another tactic to increase optimism is, maybe you find this a little bit surprising, is delegation. So delegation, think about that. If we truly delegate effectively, we are optimistic, hopeful, confident that the person that we delegate to, or the team we delegate to and empower to, we believe in them. We trust them. That is a form of optimism. Micromanagement, in my view, is a form of pessimism. A lack of belief in them, right? So to exercise your optimism muscle, maybe you need to exercise great delegation. And it's a tactic that can help you strengthen that muscle of optimism. And so I would recommend that as another tactic. And a fourth tactic is really, I mentioned it earlier, that optimism is really about your belief and your mindset, and having a positive mindset versus a negative one, believing in people versus not believing in people, believing that we can. And so really maybe the biggest opportunity for an individual or collectively a group to become optimistic is to evaluate your beliefs. Really think about that. So strengthening our beliefs, and that sounds like, touchy-feely, soft stuff and soft work. But I practice that habit myself, and more so lately as I mature in my leadership and my career and just my humanness, is I really work on my beliefs. And I spend time every single day focused on my beliefs. And so a way to do that really, I'm going to map out a little step process that is one that I've used, and I'll map it out for you because it might be helpful, and it might be the most helpful thing to you, is really starting to reflect and think about, and maybe just sit down and journal and pause and think about this. Go about your week, maybe catching yourself and thinking about this is, what pessimistic or limiting beliefs am I carrying along with me? And those thoughts will pop up in your head. Those words will come out of your mouth. that clue you in, if you're being mindful of it and you're being sensitive to it and you're trying to be thoughtful about it, is really thinking about what are those pessimistic, beliefs or limiting beliefs that are popping up in my head as I go about my days and my week at work. And then, when you kind of journal about or write down or list what are those limiting beliefs that you have, you could do this 4-step questioning to yourself. Number 1 is, what are the stories I'm telling myself to justify this belief? So maybe I'm making up a story in my head that justifies that this belief is real. Describe the payoff of having these negative beliefs. So because I have this belief, what positives do I think that I'm gaining? Because what's the payoff of carrying around this negative or limiting belief? And then start to explain to yourself why these negative stories or beliefs could be untrue. So, where's the evidence that speaks to it's not true? Because there's a huge likelihood and body of evidence likely that would show you that this belief is not true. And that's your first step to kind of changing your belief. And then really starting to think about, who would I be? Where would you be without these stories or these beliefs? So that's kind of 4-step kind of journaling process and reflection process that you can do to kind of uncover your negative, pessimistic, or limiting beliefs. And then really thinking about then, what optimistic beliefs do I need to adopt or strengthen in myself, to strengthen my leadership, to strengthen my person? What are these optimistic beliefs that I need to adopt or strengthen? And so you can start building new beliefs. You can break down those old limiting beliefs and you can adopt or strengthen new positive, optimistic beliefs. One way to do that is to create a belief table. And so if you think about a table being a statement about a belief, so I'll give an example. I'll give an example of Jane and I in our business. We went from being nurses and leaders to now being co-founders, entrepreneurs of a business. That is scary. And that does take some optimism and belief that you can actually do this, to go from being something else to something new, right? And so, but there were some limiting beliefs that I knew I had that was holding us back from that. So for instance, whenever we would get into a situation, maybe it was regarding, when you have a product or a service to sell, you have to sell yourself. You have to have a belief in your product, in your service, and that it's worthy of others to want to buy it, right? You have to have that belief, and it has to be strong. And if you don't have that strong belief, why would anyone buy your product, right? Why would anyone sign a partnership with you? Why would anyone attend your course? Why would anyone join your cohort if you yourself don't believe in it, right? And so, one belief is that, our work, our framework transforms organizations, right? And so we had to form that belief. I had to form that belief, and that true belief that it really does, right? I can't have doubt about that. And then I need to that table is that belief. Like the top of the table is that belief. But what are the legs that hold up that belief, right? So I can start counting the evidence and the examples, the stories, the data that shows that belief is true. And the more evidence I stack, the more legs I build onto that belief, the more I strengthen that belief that it's true. And so another example would be is that, one time we had a situation with, we used a phrase. We would use a phrase like we would get into a situation. Maybe we were working with a vendor for our company on, maybe just our accounting software. And we would use this firm. We'd say, okay, we're just nurses. Well, that is a bad limiting belief, right? That's demeaning to our profession to say that. And what we were saying is, dummy this down for us, because we're just nurses. That's a belief. And so one other tactic to start changing beliefs is banning words and phrases. And we use this in organizations, for other reasons, but you can do this with your beliefs where you can ban words and phrases. And, just a nurse, I'm just a nurse is banned in our company. We don't say that because it's a limiting belief. We can proudly say we're nurse entrepreneurs, right? And that's the belief. That's the power of a new belief, is that we're powerful, successful nurse entrepreneurs, and we can put legs on that table that support that new belief. And so one way you can also do that is, as you're starting to think about what are these new beliefs, catch yourself, ban these words and phrases, these thoughts that go through your head, replace them, reframe them with your new beliefs, and do this. It'll start to become routine and habit for you. But another thing is, and this was a tactic that I was taught just in the last couple months, is something called a brag book, right? And it's, could call it anything, but basically it's putting those beliefs. So right now I'm working on 4 really solid beliefs to strengthen my leadership, our work in our company. And so to strengthen those beliefs is every morning I reflect on yesterday and I look at those 4 beliefs and I write that evidence. I add those table legs to say, yesterday I did this, 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 and this. And that's in keeping and shows evidence of my belief in this, right? And so we can strengthen our beliefs. We can change our beliefs. And so maybe if you need a new belief about not being a realist or optimistic, and you need a new belief about that, is that you can declare that new belief and then every day add evidence to that to strengthen that belief and show evidence about the outcomes from that new belief, your actions and your thoughts towards that new belief. So those are a couple tactics about changing beliefs, strengthening beliefs, and getting rid of some of those old limiting pessimistic beliefs. So, really in conclusion, a question that I pondered in preparing for this is, who would you rather follow? An optimistic leader towards that vision and the hope that they painted towards these big goals and wildly successful, or a pessimistic leader? One that's leading you into a dark hole? Leading you to just the mundane status quo day to day because nothing is possible beyond what we currently have, right? So which would you rather follow? Okay? And then the question is which one are you? Which one do you want to be, right? And so that's the question. And there's tactics that, my answer is, I want to follow optimistic leaders. I want to be an optimistic leader. I want to be an optimistic mother. I want to be an optimistic wife. I want to be an optimistic nana, right? I want to be one of those people. And so that's my choice. And I would hope you would make that choice for yourself, your leadership, your team, and your organization. And those tactics that I mentioned, those 4 tactics, are ones that I think that could help you strengthen your optimism, which indeed would strengthen your leadership. So I also wanted to mention, as a little plug at the end of today's event, is that we're taking registrations now for our C-suite retreats, senior leader retreats. We're going to be in Arizona in March. We're going to be on beautiful Mackinac Island in June. And our topic this year, because we select a new topic every year for these retreats, is about ownership. Okay? It's about engaging teams and others to make contributions towards that beautiful thing on the other side. And again, I think that just speaks to optimism when we're willing to trust others to contribute. So we'll be talking about that at our C-suite retreat. So if you're interested in checking that out, that and our other events are on our website, capstoneleadership.net. Also, we're forming our new Nurse Leader Greatness cohort. That new cohort will start in April. So we're starting to take enrollments for that now, getting people ready and planning for that. And then also, we're working right now. We're starting 2 new partnerships this quarter, and we're excited to work with new organizations to help them and partner with them towards their amazing transformation. We have some other organizations right now also looking to possibly engage with us for that, but maybe your organization is needing that as well. And if so, we'd love to talk to you, and there's a spot on our website where you can engage in a call with us so we can talk about whether that's right for you, if what we do can be helpful to you and your organization. So we have ways to help leaders, we have ways to help divisions, we have ways to help entire organizations, and we'd be glad to speak to any of you about those various ways that we can help. Our mission, our vision is to inspire and equip others for positive change. I hope that today's time together did a little bit of that. I hope the rest of your week is great, and I will see you next time.